What's up, everybody? Who are our winners and losers of SEC Week 1? And was Arch Manning all hype? Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, as we do every Monday following an SEC weekend, we bring you our winners and losers of the weekend. So let's dive right into it. We will start with our winners. We got to start with Brian Kelly over at LSU. Monster win for LSU, winning 17-10 at number 4 Clemson. They had the most impressive win of the weekend by anybody in the SEC, going into the other Death Valley and finding a way to pull out a win with a revamped defense led by Blake Baker. Of course, LSU spent a ton of money in the transfer portal and this NIL age and revenue share. They were able to buy some very good players. One of them, particular, Mansour Delane, a cornerback transfer from Virginia Tech, who shut down many of those receivers for Clemson and helped secure that victory. Of course, linebacker Harold Perkins, he is back after missing majority of last year with an injury. Of course, he made so many headlines as a freshman and was so good, but played out of position over the years at LSU, and this year they got him back in the right spot, and he sealed the deal with pass rushing Cade Klubnik on the fourth down in the final minute and forced an incomplete pass. So Brian Kelly, he said all offseason, this team is the best team he's ever coached, talent-wise, and they got to go prove it. They made T-shirts that they were wearing on the field before the game and said 1-0. They lived up to the hype. They finally broke the skid of losing season openers there at LSU, and it is one of Brian Kelly's more impressive wins since he's been at LSU. And so now the challenge becomes for them, can they keep this up week in and week out? And if they do, look, it allows the 12-team playoff allows you to have 2 losses, really. I mean, a 10-2 season, we know, likely gets in. That's a great resume win for LSU. Now, Clemson certainly has to go do their duty and go win the ACC and win a lot of games to make that win look more impressive, but a good overall win for LSU and Brian Kelly. Congrats to them. Another winner of the weekend. How about Jackson Arnold at Auburn? Only threw for 108 yards through the air, but the rushing game, 16 carries for 137 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns as Auburn beat Baylor 38-24 on Friday night. Auburn as a team rushed for over 300 yards. Defense had 4 sacks. Rayshawn Pleasant had a 98-yard kick return for a touchdown. It was just a good night for Auburn and Hugh Freeze, frankly. We put him as a honorable mention winner in this group because, look, we saw a much more confident Jackson Arnold. I would expect that passing game is going to get going more these next 2 weeks at home against Ball State and South Alabama. But as many people I talked to who watched that game said, Auburn could have thrown the ball more. They just didn't have to. The ground game was there against Baylor, so they took advantage of the ground game and ran on them. So we will see against back at home these next 2 weeks at Jordan Hare what Jackson Arnold's able to do through the air, but certainly impressive as a runner. We knew how talented he was there, and a really good win for Auburn. Some people were picking Auburn to be upset in this one, so a good win over Baylor. How about another win of the weekend at Texas A&M? Their new receivers. We talk about NIL, how well it worked for LSU. How about at A&M at College Station? Going and getting Mario Craver from Mississippi State, 8 catches, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Casey Concepcion from NC State, 3 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Also had a return score as well. Really good there. And Marcel Reed, we said last year, how do you get Marcel Reed to take the next step? Go get him some big-time pass-catching weapons. Mike Elko, mission accomplished. They got him. Craver and Concepcion, they are going to be problems for the SEC all season long if they stay healthy. So can't wait to see when A&M gets some more formidable opponents, what these guys look like. But against UTSA on Saturday night, look great. And Craver and Concepcion, really good. Another win of the weekend, Saturday afternoon, we saw Joey Aguilar make his Tennessee Vols debut. 16 of 28 for 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, 34 rushing yards as Tennessee beat Syracuse 45-26. Good Vols run game we saw as well. Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis all sharing the load, almost 250 yards rushing as a team. And that Vol defense is going to be a problem. 5 sacks from them. Arian Carter, Jalen McMurray, they had an interception as well. So it's amazing to say, and this is kind of the headline coming out of this game, but did Tennessee upgrade at quarterback? Because Nico Iamaleava, we saw him at UCLA on Saturday night look pretty putrid against Utah. So you almost wonder with this Josh Heupel system. I was saying it all offseason, Josh Heupel gets the best out of his quarterbacks. And so they put Joey Aguilar in a great spot. And this is a good Syracuse team. I think they beat. We'll see as they go along what they do all season long. But they were a 10-win team a season ago. What does Aguilar look like as the season rolls along? If I'm a Vols fan, if I had lowered my expectations and going from Nico to Aguilar, I start to raise those expectations and say, hey, we're going to compete in the SEC if Aguilar keeps playing like this all season long. So shout out to Joey Aguilar. How about Sunday afternoon? We saw South Carolina knock off Virginia Tech 24-11. And one of our winners of the weekend, I'm giving it to Nick Harbor, the big former 5-star recruit, showing how dangerous he can be. Led the Gamecocks in receiving, 3 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, the 64-yard touchdown reception coming later in the game, but better late than never. And, Nick Harbor is going to be a weapon for Lenore Sellers and company. Lenore Sellers, kind of an up-and-down game. We know the rushing yards were there. I mean, they went right down the field and scored a touchdown on the opening drive. And then late we saw him kind of come on again and make some plays. But, look, got to show some love to Vakari Swain with the 80-yard punt return for a touchdown. But Nick Harbor, I think, is going to be a monster this year for South Carolina. So keep an eye out for him. Our next winner of the weekend, Gunnar Stockton, 14 of 24, 190 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 10 rushes for 73 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. We got to see that dual threat potential at quarterback that Stetson Bennett kind of had when he was leading the Georgia to back-to-back national championships. He showed some creativity as well in the run game. So Gunnar Stockton, props to him. I get it. It was Marshall, but they disposed of Marshall 45-7. Honorable mention here goes for their new weapon, Zachariah Branch, 3 catches, 95 yards and a score. And props to the Georgia defense, showing their dominance as well, winning 45-7, holding Marshall to just 2.6 yards per carry on the ground. Excited to see what this Georgia team looks like when they play some tougher competition, because Gunnar Stockton certainly looks like a gamer. We'll see what they do when they get into tougher territory. Some other winners of the weekend, DJ Lagway, he had 3 passing touchdowns against Long Island. Freshman wide receiver Vernell Brown, 79 yards receiving and an amazing catch. Jaden Ball with over 100 yards rushing and a score. But Lagway, good to see him back in action after all the offseason stuff and a walking boot and the shoulder injury and all that. Lagway looked good to go, but man, they're going to be tested very quickly. They got some big games coming up. They play USF next, who looked pretty good against Boise last week, and then it's on the road to Death Valley in 2 weeks playing that LSU defense. Another winner of the weekend, John Mateer, 30 of 37, 393 yards, 3 touchdowns, 24 rushing yards, and a rushing score. He is now, according to some of the sports books out there, considered the Heisman favorite after just 1 week, connecting with his receivers, Keontae Lewis for 2 scores, Deion Burks, Jacob Jordan. All those guys look good. Beat Illinois State 35-3. They stay home next week. Michigan coming to their house, and College Game Day is coming as well. It is going to be a monster atmosphere. But John Mateer living up to the hype, all the praise he got all offseason. I get it. It's Illinois State, but still, you got to go play well. And he played extremely well. Can't wait to see what he does against Michigan this weekend. Another win of the weekend, friend of the show, Taylen Green, 24 of 31, 322 yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 41 rushing yards. Beat Alabama A&M 52-7. Just the second quarterback in Razorback history to throw 6 or more touchdowns in a game behind Brandon Allen in 2015. Of course, the combo with him and Bobby Petrino, it's still a good one. I get it. Not a great opponent, Alabama A&M. They'll play some tougher games coming up, but a good start to the season for Taylen Green, and a good start for Omega Blake, too. 7 catches, good rapport with him and Taylen Green. Can't wait to see what that offense does throughout the year. Some honorable mentions here. I'll throw in Mississippi State backfield. Their backfield, Devon Booth, 79 rushing yards and a touchdown. Fluff Bothwell, 43 rushing yards and 2 rushing scores as Mississippi State beat Southern Miss 34-17. Some people were thinking maybe Southern Miss could pull off that upset, but good for Mississippi State to go on the road to Hattiesburg and get that win. Nice passing day from Blake Shapen as well, who threw for 270 yards. Over to Ole Miss, I'm going to throw their running back, Kewan Lacey, in here. 16 carries, 108 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. I said this last year. Ole Miss, in their losses, were lacking that dominant run game. If they can get that dominant run game going throughout the season and be a little bit more balanced, I think they're going to have a great chance to win a lot of games. By the way, they disposed of Georgia State 63-7. And lastly, how about Diego Pavia? 20 of 25, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 45-3 win over Charleston Southern. He also had 44 rushing yards as well. His big pass catcher, Eli Stowers, with 86 yards receiving. And that Vandy defense, pretty stout as well. But Diego Pavia, we know he's going to be great. See what he does for a repeat throughout this season after the phenomenal season he had last year. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Those were our winners of the weekend. Coming up next, we will get to who are our losers. We'll discuss that next. Hey, but first, a quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. They're the vintage style fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use our promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, you will get your vintage hat for $16.99. All you got to do is head to gamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com. That's TheGameCaps.com. Thegamecaps.com. Got a couple of hats for us right here. The old school LSU, of course, Texas, Alabama, bunch of different hats back here. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. This episode also brought to you by friends at Game Time. College football is back. We couldn't be more excited with all the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. And let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why we use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage back as a fan. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege. If you've never used them before, you'll get $20 off your first purchase with that promo code. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And before we get to our losers of the weekend, an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We have put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can find the link in our show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, let's get to our losers of the weekend. First, we got to start with Kalen DeBoer. Some have said Kalen DeBum. Loses at Florida State 31-17. Alabama is now 5-5 in their last 10 games under Kalen DeBoer. That is not what you thought this program would be just a year plus removed from Nick Saban being the head coach. But a rough debut for quarterback Ty Simpson, who was expected to shine under their new offense coordinator, Ryan Grubb. This was the big talk of the offseason. Oh, they got Ryan Grubb, the OC that Kalen DeBoer has so much familiarity with. This offense is really going to take off. Oh, Jalen Milroe, he was a bum. Ty Simpson, he fits the system better. He's going to take off. Well, Simpson was pressured on 16 of his 51 dropbacks. But in the last season plus for DeBoer, I mean, you're talking losses out of Vandy, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Michigan, and now Florida State. Alabama suffers their first season opening loss since 2001. That was 23 straight season opening wins. That comes to an end. 87 rushing yards on the day by Alabama, the fewest in a season opener since 1975. Just looked like a soft Alabama team. We are not used to seeing that. Look, I think having Jam Miller out hurt, I think they're going to get back home. They're going to feel much more comfortable in the confines of Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Ty Simpson is going to play better. But if he doesn't, if it's still inconsistencies, expect Keelan Russell or one of those backup quarterbacks to get some playing time here. Bama can't waste any time. By the way, Ryan Williams suffered a concussion in the game, so we'll be watching his status over this next week to see when he will be back. But just an ugly loss for Alabama, 31-17 of Florida State, the team that went 2-10 a year ago. And by the way, for those wondering, Kalen DeBoer's buyout is $70 million. So that's a lot of money. don't know if he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. It's better to stick with him and hope he turns this thing around if you're an Alabama fan. It's just one loss. They can turn the season around. Haven't lost an SEC game yet, so still plenty to play for. How about another loser of the weekend? I hate to do it. We'll go with Arch Manning. 17 of 30 for 170 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. That 1 touchdown did come late in the game. Look, a lot of people are blaming Sark's play calling as well. We're going to talk with our buddy Brad Kellner coming up in the next segment about the performance, but people said too conservative play calling. They thought Arch played nervous early. Passes were telegraphed, not much zip. He had a 37% off-target percentage. That's the highest in a single game by a Texas quarterback in the last 10 seasons. Went into the fourth quarter just, 9 of 15 for 38 yards before they finally put together that touchdown drive. But on that last fourth down play, offensive line didn't help him, man. Brandon Baker, a tackle, completely whiffed and let a guy run right by him. So here's the same thing with Ty Simpson. I think Arch Manning, the next 3 games at home, he's going to get back home in Austin, play much more comfortable. He'll build some confidence up, look much better against San Jose State and the teams that they got coming up next. Another loser of the weekend, by no means by his performance, but Sam Horn gets hurt on the first play of the game Thursday night for Mizzou against Central Arkansas. We knew it was going to be a battle with him and Bo Prabula, and Prabula was probably going to win the job anyway, but just stinks to see Sam Horn go down with that knee injury. And again, no timetable yet on when he'll be able to return, but it seems like he's going to be out for a while. So Mizzou likely to roll with Bo Prabula, and he will be the guy the rest of the way, presumably. Another loser of the weekend, how about Zach Calzada at Kentucky? Very experienced quarterback, has played tons of different stops, thrown for a ton of yards. Well, in this game, he was just 10 of 23 for 85 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Did have 14 rush yards with a rushing touchdown, but Kentucky squeaks by Toledo 24-16. Now, the run game was good for Kentucky. Dante Dowdell and Seth McGowan both rushing very well. But Calzada, the quarterback play, leaving a lot to be desired. If he plays like that continuously, Kentucky's going to lose a lot of games this year. If I could throw in one to be nitpicky about, how about A&M and their run game? I thought that backfield with Lavian Moss and Mari Daniels, Ruben Owens, E.J. Smith, and a quarterback who can run, Marcel Reed, to only rush for 110 yards against UTSA, I just thought would be a team that they would run it down their throats. I get it. They were more concerned about showcasing their new passing game, and boy, did they. But would have liked to have seen them rush for more yards. And then the defense. I get it. They won 42-24 against UTSA, but this was a 21-17 game in the third quarter. Did not think a Mike Elko defense would let a team like the Roadrunners put up almost 400 yards of total offense on them. But it was week 1. I expect the Aggie defense to play much better in the coming weeks. And I was very close to putting Austin Simmons in this category when he had the 2 early interceptions against Georgia State, but he settled down, threw for 3 touchdowns, and looked fine after that. So who will be our losers and winners of next week? SEC Week 2. We will have that for you next Monday. Still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. What was the problem with Arch Manning over the weekend? We're going to talk with our buddy Brad Kellner, host of Locked On Longhorns, coming up next. Hey, look, guys, you've probably heard of products like Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. And effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. You can even read real customer reviews on their website. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Just head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use our code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Locked On SEC rolling along here, and a pleasure now to be joined by our guy Brad Kellner, host of Locked On Longhorns. And Brad, I was trying to get you on all summer leading up to the start of the season, where we were going to have a lot of positive things to talk about with the Texas Longhorns and the hype for Arch Manning and the preseason #1 team and all the polls. And lo and behold, we finally get you on, and it's after a Texas loss. So give me the vibes. What's the feeling after seeing Texas go down to Ohio State over the weekend? losing 14-7.
Yeah, it's disappointment for sure. I mean, so much hype leading up to this season with what Texas has done the last couple of years, and obviously with Arch Manning taking over at quarterback, you were hoping that this team would make a statement on the road against the defending champs, and what an opportunity that Texas had to do so, right? Against Ohio State, the team that knocked you out of the college football playoff last year on Banner Day. You had the chance to go into their house and prove that you're worthy of the preseason #1 ranking, obviously avenge that loss that you suffered in January. And the offense kind of no-show. Obviously, the defense did its job. I think any Texas fan would have signed up for 14 points allowed in this game, but obviously the offense, they didn't score for the first 3 quarters. Finally got their first touchdown with just under 4 minutes to go, but couldn't find the equalizer. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to win too many games against anybody scoring only 7, especially against a team like that. So disappointment for sure. And look, the good news for Texas, it's a long season, but obviously a lot to clean up, especially on the offensive side of the football, Chris.
Yeah, look, the days following a week 1 loss like this, it's all overreaction, right? And we saw that a lot from the national folks throwing Arch Manning under the bus. Oh, it was all hype, and if his last name was anything else, we wouldn't be saying this. But talk to me a little bit, because I saw some of the Texas fans saying they weren't so mad at Arch. They were more mad at Sark. They thought his play calling was a little bit too conservative and maybe not suiting Arch's skill set in a tough road environment. What'd you make of Sark's game plan?
Yeah, I think, blame is shouldered by both of those guys and a few other guys as well, but I didn't love the game plan from Steve Sarkisian. I think my biggest nitpick, and I don't really know if it's a nitpick, I think it's a worthy critique, is the same thing that has plagued the Texas offense in each of the last 2 seasons reared its ugly head again on Saturday, and that's red zone ineptitude, right? I mean, we all saw how the Cotton Bowl ended in January. Texas had a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line, down by 7 late in the 4th quarter against this Ohio State team, and they couldn't convert, and it turned into a disaster, and boom, ball game over. Ohio State moves on. Texas's season is over. The Longhorns, and more specifically Steve Sarkisian, had 232 days to get the red zone offense figured out. And Texas has 2 trips into the red area in this game on Saturday, and they go 0 for 2. They walk away with 0 points. So that's the most annoying part. I think you can be critical of some of the other play calling as well in between the 20s, but the money situations, right? If Texas just punches it in twice inside the 20, the Longhorns win this football game. But because they went 0 for in the red area, and because that's something that has persisted for way too long with this offense, that to me is the biggest reason why Texas fans have every right to be critical with Steve Sarkisian and his offensive game plan.
We saw in some of those later drives, Arch kind of got into maybe a little bit of a rhythm, and we started to see him make some really nice throws. But early in the game, man, throwing balls in the dirt and at people's feet, like, what was going on there? Do you think it was nerves? Why was Arch so bad?
Yeah, I mean, I think nerves is definitely a big part of it, right? Like, try to put yourself in Arch Manning's shoes. I mean, we're talking about a 20-year-old kid. I don't care if Arch is 40 or 50 going into a situation like that with all of the pressure that was on him. I mean, all of the hype, the Heisman odds, the odds to be the #1 pick in next year's NFL draft, like all of the talk. Arch hears that, right? You could try to stay off of social media. You could try to tune out the noise, but there's no way in 2025 you're able to tune all of that out. So there's a lot of pressure on this young man going into this game, and I think it got to him a little bit early on. And look, it doesn't help that you're going up against an elite defense with a fantastic secondary on the road. Like, I think a combination of the expectations and the opponent that you were playing against led to some uneasiness from Arch Manning. Because you're right, he looked a little panicked. He looked a little rushed in the first half. I mean, the very first throw of the game, Chris, it was a great play call by Steve Sarkisian. He had DeAndre Moore wide open about 15 yards down the field. I mean, there wasn't a Buckeye defender within 5 yards of DeAndre Moore. And Arch Manning short-armed it so bad, you were like looking at the replay wondering if the ball got tipped. Like, someone had to touch that, right? Like, there's no way. And it was so short. And then that was kind of like a microcosm of the day for Arch. Like, it felt like some of the more difficult throws he made without an issue, but some of the easy throws, that one, just a few shallow crosses, which, the mesh concept is a huge part of Sark's offense, some check down, some basic stuff that, like, we saw Arch make those plays last year. I know everyone says, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He made those plays last year. For whatever reason, he wasn't making them on Saturday. So, yeah, he couldn't get into a rhythm. again, some of it's on play calling, but some of it's on the quarterback. Those are throws that if you're going to be a successful offense, you need your quarterback to be able to make.
So if we flip it and kind of say, all right, what were some positives? Jack Endries, I think, showed, he's going to be a really nice tight end after losing Gunnar Helm. This is a guy who step up. I was shocked to see they rushed for 166 and Trey Wisner at 80 because it didn't feel like that. Like, it felt like watching it, Ohio State was doing a good job of bottling up the run. And all the concerns I had about the O-line, yeah, there were some times where there was a free rusher and all this, but they only sacked, Arch once the whole game. So if we're gleaming positives, I said this going in the game, Brad, like 99% of the country would lose this game playing at Ohio State. So there's no harm in the loss. It's just, where do you go from here? And the good news is too, the next three home games, next three games all at home against San Jose, UTEP, and Sam Houston. This should all be 3 weeks of confidence builders for Arch and the whole team.
Yeah, look, obviously the most positive from the game is the defense, right? I mean, they did a really good job against an extremely talented offense. I know Ohio State was breaking in a new quarterback, but that guy's going to be really good. Got two great running backs. They've got the best player in college football with Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver, and I think the best wide receiving room in the country. So you hold them to 14 points. They only rushed the ball for 2.9 yards a carry. So I thought the new look interior of the Texas defensive line held up, which that was a pleasant sign. And then, yeah, like the offensive line, were they perfect? No, but I would have signed up for 166. I mean, Chris, last year Texas had a Joe Moore Award finalist offensive line. They only ran it for 58 yards as a team total against Ohio State in January. 37 carries, $166 in this one. That's a positive sign. You're right. Arch Manning was only sacked once, and it was for like a loss of 1 yard. I think Ohio State didn't have another TFL in the entire game. So a couple of penalties. It wasn't all perfect, but all things considered, yeah, I think the offensive line was a little bit more impressive because to me, that was the number one question with Texas going into this game. It's not my number one question with Texas coming out of this game. So there are some positives. And obviously the biggest positive is, look, it's a long season. I mean, the team you lost to lost twice in the regular season in 2024 and won the national championship. Now, I know that probably sounds crazy to be talking about Texas winning a national title after what we saw on Saturday. But like you said, you've got a few games, those 3 straight games against easy opponents at home. Then you get a bye week before going into conference play. So you got a lot of time to correct those issues, right some wrongs, and build up some confidence before you go on the road to Florida to start off conference play in early October.
Yeah, and we're talking impressive defenses. I mean, LSU, obviously, they get it done at Clemson, winning 17-10. To hold Clemson to 10 and their home field is impressive. But I think we also have to say, okay, offensive woes aside, for Texas to hold Ohio State to just 14 points in their house, I think is pretty impressive. And I think as we see, as the year goes along, we saw Texas one of the best defenses at not allowing you to score last year. Maybe we'll see that take its fruition as the season starts to roll along and the offense kind of slowly catches up, which you would expect. But big game coming up in the Swamp. You got 3 weeks or 4 weeks really to get ready for it because you got 3 cupcakes here at home to take care of business. But Brad, always appreciate the time, man, and let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Chris. Yeah, Locked On Longhorns. Find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. The show goes on. Promise the video camera is usually better than this. Maybe I'm just too embarrassed after yesterday's performance to show up in HD. But we'll be breaking this loss down all week long and trying to turn the page to better things ahead. But yeah, Locked On Longhorns, wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube, and find us on Twitter as well.
Maybe that was Sark's problem. He had this blurred camera vision that we're getting from Brad Kellner right now. Brad, appreciate the time, man.
You're the man, Chris. Thank you.
All right, thanks to Brad Kellner. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Hey, reminder for your second watch later this week, you can check out, if you're a college football fan, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, alongside former college star Jesse Holley, and a lot of our Locked On college experts. College football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Come back and see us.